Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best for Women Live, the podcast. I am so excited to have you with me here today to meet Erin Sisko. Erin and I met quite a few years ago, and what really drew me to her was her passion for supporting women. It's one of the many things that she and I have in common, and why I'm really excited to introduce you to her today. So, here we go. She should be coming on any moment if the internet is working well. Perfect. There she is.
Hey,
Hello, how are you?
good. How are you?
I'm really good. And I'm so glad to have you on the show today. I wanted to maybe just start with briefly introducing yourself, and then we're going to jump into your favorite topic and mine, which is building a community and being a connector.
So I just I like to expose myself to a wide array of business experiences for my own growth, and then I can hopefully also bring that knowledge inside the Elleiance network and help all of the women who hang out inside there to this knowledge.
Okay, I love all of that. I'm going to recap a little bit, but first I'm going to let you know that either your headset or your distance from your camera is not quite right because you're a little choppy. So I want to recap some of the things. So Elleiance, which is the main network that you founded, we're going to hear about that. You are also a commercial realtor, and you were a commercial banker, and you have been supporting women with advising, and you have bought a business, and you have partners, and you've been an investor. And from your posts, I know that you're launching into something new on that space around capital as well. You are involved in some amazing things.
Yeah, I like to keep busy, I guess. I love this whole world of business. And so the Elleiance Network for me is like a dream come true job because it fosters and supports and encourages me to continue my curiosity around all things business, to be that, like, in my core, I feel like I am that support person. I am the connector. I am, that person that is always puts up my hand and says, like, in which way can I help you grow your business today? Like, where are you at? What can I do? So I just have this thirst and curiosity to, like, keep understanding more and more and more about business, to grow myself, but to grow so many others along with me, like to be able to share my knowledge and give and serve in that way. So yeah, it's the best.
Oh, I love that. So, Erin, tell me a little bit more about the Elleiance community. What is it that you've been working to build, and why are you so passionate about this group of women?
Yeah. So the Elleiance Network started back in 2019 when I was working with women entrepreneurs, and I was hearing them say that at the time I was in financing, so I felt like I had money as a tool to support. But kind of to my surprise, and just a bit of ignorance probably, is I was hearing women over and over and over again say, actually, we feel our biggest challenge is in making the right connections. And it probably took me 10 times of hearing that same message over, a couple month period for it to really land and be like, okay, can I help here? Like, what can I do? I'm always on a one-on-one basis. I was always asking the questions and doing what I just kind of explained, saying, okay, how can I help? Who do you need to meet? Who can I introduce you to? I know you're very much like that as well, Brooke, and it just
100%.
feels so good to expand your own network and then share it generously. And, like, it's just this beautiful circle. But I wasn't clear on a larger basis how I could support on the help us make better connections, like through business in entrepreneurship to grow and scale. So I did some brainstorming, Googling, what's available. It started off really, where can I send these people? Like, who is doing something like Elleiance that I could say, hey, you should go and join this group or this network or this community, whatever it might be. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I was just Googling away. And that's when I came across a couple ideas that sparked my interest. And I just thought, you know what? I sent everyone an email and I said, if I start a group, would you come? Like, do you want to meet up once a month and talk business and support one another and share our knowledge and inspire and all that stuff? And people said yes, and 10 people showed up on the day of, and I was scared out of my wits, felt totally out of my element. But what happened there, it just sealed the deal for me. Like, what I witnessed in that first meeting, bringing 10 women together with the common theme of we're entrepreneurs trying to build a business. Everybody, for the most part, in different industries at different stages, like all of that didn't really matter, but they did have the common goal of, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm trying to grow my business every single day. And I don't really feel like I have a lot of people around me that understand what this career path is like. And so how the connections and the relationships were built in that 2-hour meeting, like for me to sit there and kind of facilitate those introductions and that conversation and witness how quickly those bonds were formed, how people got a little bit emotional, sharing some tough parts of their journey, a little bit vulnerable, sharing things that are hard and scary, and like in meeting number 1. And I just left feeling like my cup was over full for what had happened. And so anyways, it was this monthly thing, and I would set an agenda, and I always say we talk about every aspect of building and growing a business. And I get to know everyone around the table pretty easily as well. So my job is to bring forward topics that are really relevant. And my goal is that everybody leaves the 2-hour meeting with some new idea or connection or piece of information that just helps them slowly move their business forward and like get over that little hurdle. So that's just what kept happening. And then the next group was formed. It was just like this seamless thing, these like mini masterminds of approximately 10 to 12 women just kept kind of coming together so effortlessly until it eventually became, what I did for work. So it turned into a membership, and workshops were added, and an online community and networking events and all of the things. And now we're looking at expanding out of the city.
I'm going to pause you there. Okay. Because I want to take us back to those very first calls in 2019, because you and I had got to know each other just a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing about Elleiance, and you had picked the name, and you were so excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I did this thing, and they made them go sign a contract for a year, and they're going to like commit to doing this thing. It was a commitment contract, right, to themselves, and that they would come and that they would care for each other and that they would care for themselves, and they would come. And I remember you and I talking about you. There's a little bit of you that's like, I don't know what I did, but it's the right thing to have done. And then there was the other part of you that was already like, how can I make this much more? And I remember that phone call together so clearly.
So do I. And it feels like a lifetime ago, but a minute ago, it's one of those things, because so much has happened, so much growth. Oh my goodness. I couldn't, you just can't dream of like what's around the corner when you keep taking that little, and like I just kept saying that to myself. Like I said, my cup was over full. It was filling something inside of me that hadn't really ever been explored in that way before, you know, like I just felt so good. And that was also partially because of the feedback I was getting from the other women who had said yes and trusted me to put something half decent together for them, and then left there with this energy. It was an energy in the room that is hard to put words around, but you kind of know it when you're experiencing it,
100%.
right? So, and I just kept taking the next little tiny baby step. I'm like, I'm just gonna, one more group, one more member, one more thing, you know, one name, one branding thing, like just like this little tiny, I had no idea what you know, you don't know what you're doing. And you know, you look back and you're just like, wow, those million baby steps. And now I'm, you know, still taking my million baby steps every day. But yeah, I remember that
And
time I was scared.
I know. I know, but what I'm hearing you in your language, and you're like, oh, well, this sort of half put together. No, it wasn't. I also remember the amount of effort that you put into creating the agenda, the research that went behind it. You had a whole series of them all laid out. You were thinking about the next ones as each conversation and then shifting it. So I don't want to hear you undermine your own efforts, because
Thank you.
even at the very beginning, you were already from the very get-go building structure and really thinking about, oh my God, I have a wait list. Like, I don't even know what's happening. And so I've got this group and now I've got a wait list, and I think I'm going to start a second one. And immediately your brain clicked into, how do I scale this? How do I make it replicable? Which I loved. And so here you are, and I had put a pause on what you were going to say. So tell me, what is it that's next? Because this is the part I'm super excited about, because I know this has been an idea for many years.
It has been. And so I lead these groups in person, and there's something really magical, as I know you know, about in person. And we all got really good at virtual through the pandemic, and it did become a way of life and a way of doing business for so many people. But Elleiance has always been in person, and I've served the women in my city, which is Thunder Bay, Ontario. And just because it was at the time, that was who I was serving through my work at the time, and it was just this beautiful natural extension, and it made sense, and it was easy for me to do, and it's where my network sits right now. So, but I know in my heart and in my gut and all of the things that there's more to this work. You know, I've witnessed it now for 2 years, like blooming and blossoming, and what's possible, and, you know, learning to trust myself more every day. So I am launching the first virtual group, which I'm testing out to make sure, you know, it's still the small group. So I feel like, just to clarify, what is really powerful about Elleiance and what makes it different than so many other networks out there that serve women entrepreneurs is that when you put your hand up, we have a little conversation, and you are placed in a group, and that's your group. And there's about anywhere from 10 to 15 people max in the group, and they all complement your skill set and your journey and your position right now, like in a super beautiful way. And every month you show up with the exact same women, and sometimes someone can't make it because you know, life is crazy. Yeah. But you know that you're going to have familiar faces around the table, and every month, you know, you're going to deepen those relationships, that you're able to show up, and you're going to give, and you're going to receive, and, you know, you're going to pour into this beautiful conversation and take what you need and leave feeling really amazing about business and what's next, and inspired, and, you know, have clarity around what your next step is going to be for the next week and going into the next meeting. And that, I just don't see, it's ongoing. It's not a year. Don't get kicked out after a year. You, like, that's your group for as long as you want it to be your group. those are the women that you get to show up with and have these conversations about building and growing a business. So I do see it working virtually because, again, you're showing up with the same people. So you can build those relationships and, really get to know and support one another. So I'm really excited about that. So growing, there is going to be some virtual groups so that we can expand who we serve and location doesn't matter anymore. And then, we'll see about launching some in-person groups in different cities. Maybe not always led by me, but what I've been told lovingly by my members is that it's nice that I'm there, but once the group is formed, everybody has so much. That's what I have come to understand so clearly, is that I'm on my own entrepreneurial journey now that is almost 2 years in. You have done, so many entrepreneurial things in your career as well. And we are learning so much every single day about different ways to grow a business, right? So
Yeah.
Everybody has so much to offer at the table. Like, their voice is beyond valuable and so important, and you don't even know who's listening to you that's like, oh my God, thank you for sharing that, and is like making notes furiously because they might be in business for 10 years and maybe you're just in your first, but you've done something that they haven't tripped across yet.
Or had an idea that they had never considered, or 100%.
It's just that energy. It's that energy again that you can't really, put a finger on or monetize it or say, quantify it, put it in the box and say, this is what you're getting. It's so beyond that, again, I feel like I always tell everyone that I am the luckiest one because I get to go to every single group meeting and I get all of the goodness and they only get their group. So I'm sorry, but I'm the luckiest one.
I love it that you created it. And so that's how that works. Erin, there's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on, because as we were talking about this and you started to allude to it a little bit, there was a phrase that you said, and I love it, that you're trusting yourself more every day. And we talked a little bit about this idea of sort of coming forward because you are in a place where you have uncertainty, you feel alone, right? You've been on this journey on your own and you're trying to figure out your way. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit, but I'm going to plant a seed that I know part of the value of Elleiance is almost like that confidentiality in the group. So I am not going to ask you to share any stories of the women in your network. But what I do know is that you have benefited and you are your own shining example of how opportunities have created because of these connections. So I want to go there eventually, but first I want to sort of pause and just talk a little bit more about that confidence building piece, because I think it's a really important way that you phrased it. So a lot of people think that confidence is just something, either this morning I was on another networking group, Canadian Women in Food, who you might know, and we were talking about, you can fake it till you make it. And sure, there's an element of that. But confidence isn't something that just like, ta-da, right? It's not a binary thing. So tell us a little bit more about that experience for you.
Yeah, I believe that when I think about the most valuable things that I have received so far from trusting myself enough to leave corporate and this crazy wild world of entrepreneurship, which is basically so far what it's been for me, is just following my heart and my gut in every single decision. Like, it's such and I love that I get to talk to you about this because I know that but I spent it hasn't been 2 years yet that I've been on my own, and I'm 40 years old, and I spent 20 years prior to that in jobs, in whether corporate or municipal or government or whatever it was, but working for somebody else with a job description and just trying to do my very best to tick every bullet point on that job description and be in that box, never thinking I was in a box though, just grateful and happy and working hard and trying to do my best in the position that I was hired for and for the organization that I was working for. And it was fine and great, you know. And then all of these things, and it's a long story, but you know, I got led and pulled into running the Elleiance network, and I had to make a decision, and I decided to take the leap of faith and continue to grow Elleiance and continue to follow my heart on the things that lit me up and that I wanted to experience. And there's no rule book at all. There's no bullet points that I'm trying to tick off. We just had a funny conversation coming out of our last Elleiance meeting where I said, and like everybody agreed, it's just you're making it up every day. Like, is this right? So you need that trust in yourself, that like learning how to hear your intuition in some way, finding like a couple still moments in each day. And this was shared with me at a previous, my last Elleiance meeting actually, is that one of the women said, I was about to launch something that I was feeling really stuck in developing, and I finally just decided that I needed to sit there. I needed, like, got myself into a meditative state, and I asked myself over and over, is this truly what you want? Like, why are you getting stuck? Do you want to do this? And I just thought, I just loved that so much, because how often do you get to do that? You know, like exactly what you want to do is so powerful, but radical responsibility that you have to be able to own and manage and hold and carry on a daily basis. So much beauty in it, but so much responsibility. You know, I've never looked at myself. I'm a mom, and that's a journey as well in like self-discovery, and being a mom who is just trying to find her way in entrepreneurship. Like, it has just been what it's hard to put into words, like how I've had to look at myself like so raw every day and just be like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. This is what I can do. This is where I fall short. This is where I fall short. And this is where I need help. And I know I need to do this, but something is blocking me. I can feel the block now, you know, and just like this awareness, this self-awareness, which leads to the confidence piece. And it's a journey, and it's something that I've struggled with in the past, not trusting myself. And I've come a long way, but I also understand, and I've come to peace with the fact that this will be a forever journey. This will be, you know, I will never stop trying to better trust myself and hear my little voice inside and trust that I can walk towards it, and I've got myself. You know, it's so beautiful.
Oh, Erin, it is. There's so much in there that I want to comment on. But first, I want to say I think it's a couple of people have been sending little notes of 100% agree, little hearts while you were talking. Excuse me, and I think it's really valuable because this is a journey. I remember when you first started this, and there were so many things that you were really gifted at, and so many things that, you know, if you didn't stop to think about it and you just went with it, you were so confident, especially if you were talking about money, because at the time that was your area of expertise. And I remember watching you start to talk about this with this mix. We talked about it earlier, this mix of fear and complete imagination, and your whole tone would change, your voice would change, everything about your physical presence would change when you're talking about Elleiance. And I think you've highlighted a couple of pieces that are so important, this idea of a radical responsibility, you know, from the context of being a mom, absolutely, but there's also almost a radical accountability that goes along with that, because you don't know and can't predict all the outcomes. And so you have to sort of trust in your plan. You have to be responsible for all the parts that you're responsible for. You have to be accountable for all the parts that you hope that someone else can be responsible for. And then you have to also own into and hold the unexpected outcomes.
Yes. Yes. And I think that for me, it's been that's important part of the journey, because there's nobody like, it's not like, well, this didn't work because you did this, or this person didn't show up there. It is like full on, okay, if the outcome wasn't what I hoped and dreamed it would be, why? And like, what can I, like, there's nobody else to blame for your stuff. There's no other reason why something didn't work or you didn't get the outcome that you hoped for, except for yourself. So, and that's uncomfortable. That can be very uncomfortable, you know. It goes right back to being like a super little kid, right? Like right off the bat, we're like, he did that, all the things, and we get used to the deflecting. So to this journey of learning how to like hold everything and look at it from all the sides, and how you can improve or change or shift, or, you know, just taking it on as your response. Like when I say radical responsibility, I just feel like that is truly what it is, but it can be very uncomfortable, and to learn to sit in that is hard.
It is. And I think you raised such an important point as well. So the idea when you have someone who, you know, I think of conversations I've had recently where there's often frustration or anger when you have a colleague who is not demonstrating the same level of competence. I'll just simply say that. And then I saw a meme go by that talked about sort of a generational piece where there's an entire generation, apparently my generation, who really values having competent colleagues. And when you leave a team and it's just you, one of the things that I know for myself on my own journey that has just kept coming up is, are there areas where I'm not competent? And so I'll give you an example. This podcast is alive because one of my competencies is not video editing. And so, you know, what are the things that I can do within the context of the skill that I have? But for yourself, I also know that part of this discovery has been expanding your own competencies. And so tell us a little bit about that journey. Because every time I talk to you, Erin, you were like taking a course and you're about to launch into something amazing.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot to unpack there too, right? So my first year, I did a lot of that. So I took an 11-month long business coaching certification program, and I became a certified coach. And I completed my real estate license. And that was a 2-year long journey for me to get through that with everything else going on. So I completed that successfully and did my due diligence and signed up to work for a brokerage. And I took so because I have a finance background and a financing background, I see all sides of what is required when you're looking to build and scale a business. So connections, for sure, was where Elleiance was born, but money can't be ignored, and it is critical. So, so I started to kind of dive into the world. I knew the banking world. I had spent a lot of time supporting my clients in accessing government grants and those types of programming. So I felt pretty confident in being able to support women in accessing grant programs that were available. But where I had like a knowledge deficit was in scaling your business with private capital or private equity, private debt, private equity, venture capital, angel investing, like that whole world. So
and it is different. Finance and financing are not the same thing. For everyone out there who's listening, personal finance, commercial finance, and then private financing. These are not the same topics, right? And they're not the same mindset, and they're not the same approaches.
No, there's so much to learn about the private world of like accessing private capital and what that structure looks like and how you find it and when it's required and what you use it for. It's a whole, like you nailed it. It's a whole different ball game than going into a bank and asking for a loan for a project. So it really made me curious. So I started to do all of my own research on it. And then I took a course through the 51 and the University of Calgary. A financial feminism investing lab was the name of the course, so that I could learn more about that whole aspect of raising capital and, the private capital world. So I do some one-on-one work. I feel like I'm missing one, but why I say that is a whole, just because we could go on so many different tangents, right? But yes, I did. I took a lot of courses, and I was always like looking for the next thing that I could learn. And I love learning, and I love personal and professional development. But what I realized at the end of it all was, I think for me, a lot of it was fear. I had just left my good corporate job, and learning was something that felt like I was doing something important. I was, but it was a little bit of like a scapegoat, I guess. So I really decided for 2023 that I was really going to limit the amount of courses. I did a lot of mindset work around the fact that I know enough. I am smart. I know enough, and got comfortable with that, and then decided, alongside with the courses, I was growing Elleiance. I had joined a brokerage for commercial real estate. I had bought a business with partners. So I had invested a lot, not only in courses, but also in like making moves. So yep. I knew that 2023 had to be my year of slowing down on the learning and just like really pouring into the businesses that I had started in 2022 and getting them to a point, like seeing their growth, having goals, like business goals for myself, and taking those off instead of the next course. And I know for a fact that there's going to be a year, whether it's in somewhere in the next 5 years, that is going to be another learning year for me, because I do love that aspect. But I'm trying to find a balance, because I got to make money and grow my businesses.
But I love this, because there's a difference between the idea of a learning and then what I love to call praxis. It's a word that I use as my word for the year, which is the application of learning. Like, it's one thing to learn it, as you learned about financing, and now you're doing it. And so I think that's a really important piece, is that yes, we can learn, but being part of accountability groups, being part of masterminds like Elleiance, being part of these different ways where you can come and have more community learning, but also put into practice the things that you've been working on and learning about. Because when you learn something, it's just information. It's once you do something with it that becomes knowledge, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So this was really important. Like and like, that's the thing also that I'm, without a shadow of a doubt, I bet you if we're talking once a year, for the next 20 years, it's going to be like, this last year was a very important growth year for me, right? So much growth. But they're all different. Like, they're all important. It's all important. It's not that one is not. It's like stages and phases, right? And I knew for 2023 that I needed to just pour into and like really dive into the different aspects of growing these 3 businesses that I'm growing. And what's next for me is, like, my big goal on the financing side is to launch my own VC fund or in partnership with other people, but to have this fund that supports women entrepreneurs, again, go farther, grow bigger, go beyond their wildest dreams, and have the money for them to be able to do that along with the network. So I'm always, there's a huge learning curve there, but every day is learning, right? Like, I don't, sometimes, like for right now, I don't feel like I need the next course, because this conversation, like every conversation, I'm like taking so much away from it. And it's, yeah. So that's, I hope that
I love
answers your
that.
question.
Ah, there's no question. We're having a conversation.
Okay, good.
Erin, I can't believe how quickly the time has flown by. Did you have any last thoughts that you want to share with our audience?
I think for me, the theme of this that has been the most powerful share for me is that baby step and trusting yourself. I could have had no idea. I'm a long time corporate gal, and I ticked all the boxes, and I was a really good corporate employee that followed all the rules. I'm a rule follower, I'm all the things. So to be out here now and being able to hear my own voice and to make decisions that really matter to me, and make a difference in spaces in a way that is super aligned with my values, knowing what my values are. I didn't even know what my values were before, because I just didn't spend enough time thinking about what I want. So if you have, it's not for everybody, but if you have that like little niggling of a feeling that this might be something, entrepreneurship, or you have a dream outside of like where you're sitting right now, just take the next baby step. You have no idea what sort of world it could open up for you, and I'm here to talk anytime.
Amazing. I love that. Erin, thank you so much. In the replay, we're going to be sharing all your contact information with Elleiance and all the other ways to get a hold of you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And thank you for choosing to be vulnerable with us and share about some of your struggles and your journey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So great to see you.
You are so welcome, my friends. Great to see you too.
Bye,
All
guys.
right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.